spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seeds sowing, harvest reaping, man of meager means. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dreams. I cannot even ask if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't really. It ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun. It's an everyday theme. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night, I rest in peace. They remember me, but I am not Haram or beef.
Peace.
I'm a spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seeds sowing, harvest reaping, man of meager means. I have yet.
mypdfbooks.com. That's books with a Z.
Once again, this broadcast has been brought to you by mypdfbooks.com. That's books with a Z, where reading fundamental. Also brought to you by bindedbooks.com, where treasures are bound. Be sure to get all of your teas at My Son's Teas, the tea of teas, divinely prepared at herbsofmyaunt.com. Be sure to check out all of those musical stylings by Brian Hicks Spade at bhspademusic.com. For your everyday items and religious regalia, be sure to check out morrishaberdasher.com. And for that everyday especial Morris drip, be sure to check out morsachi.com. And all of these companies are powered by ALO Design Pros. Design your online business strategy today.
No such thing as failure, baby. Don't forget who made you. You can't be thinking minor when you need to be thinking major. They made you think they saved you, but it can't nobody save you.
And without further ado, we introduce to you Sheikh Kari Goodman Bey.
What's going on, people? Peace, love, and light to all my brothers.
Peace.
My sisters. Peace, Noble Brian.
Peace and love.
How you doing, bro?
Magnificent. Wonderful day today. Noble Malik got us right with that more power workout this morning, early in the AM. So, I'm doing just fine.
Man, didn't he? He got us right. When I say got us together, which is always a pleasure, man, to get the body right. But before we get started, man, can we get our Moorish American prayer, if you don't mind?
Yes, sir. My pleasure. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our guide, and our salvation by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Shalom Malakim, Ayah Ash'ayah, Hotep, Islam, Amen. Peace, 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 peace.
Peace, 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 peace. We're just giving honors to Noble Malik for that amazing workout this morning. We always get the body right. Peace to everyone out there. Peace to everybody, man. All the Moors, the true light seekers. Just everyone in the world. We give you love, we give you peace. We're here to give you understanding. But today, we have a gift for y'all. We're going to play a film. And we're going to play a film by Dr. Robin Walker. If time permits, we might play 2 films, if time permits. If not, we'll just keep it to 1. But I want to show people from scholarship so we can kind of disprove the arbitrary explanation of things. I'll give you an analogy where everybody have the right of their degree, but I believe it's a thing called scholarship and true understanding. And I think sometimes feelings get in the way of scholarship. A lot of times people give their own perspective, like a lot of Moorish history, brothers and sisters don't know about. I give an analogy. I give a historical perspective. when individuals try to say all Moors were Muslims. Well, in Spain, you have Moors that were Muslims and Christian. You know that, right? So to say Moor just means Muslim is
Indeed.
totally off.
Yes, sir.
To say Moor means like Muslim is totally off from a historical perspective, from an educational perspective. And I believe we should dispel the pseudo and the feelings with scholarship. A lot of times when I talk about lectures and films and being able to see things on academia perspective or hear professors lecture on these topics, no matter if it's religion, but history, that's what I ask a lot of brothers when that's not common. So what we're trying to do here at the Burning Bush Tabernacle with my brothers, my Moochies and myself, is to make it common. If a lot of this stuff I talk about, when I say this is in the libraries, these are in the doctoral libraries, Harvard, Oxford, the so-called elite know this, especially brothers and sisters that's Mason. So when we look at social media, which we can agree, the New World Order is brothers and sisters getting caught up in what? AI. Getting caught up in what? Being consumed with what? Social media. And it's so much falseness on social media, especially when we talk about Moorish history. A lot of people come from their own perspective, and it might be a religious perspective, it might be a pseudo perspective, but when it comes down to academia and science, I believe we should do things the right way. So right now, we're going to play a film. And if anybody got any questions before we play it, Noble Brian, do you have that film available, my brother?
Yes, sir. I actually have two. We have the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the Civilization or the History of the Moors.
Let's play the Civilization of the Moor first, because I want us to see this. And for myself and for any other brothers and sisters that study and have the pleasure to study and have good teachers, like myself and others, and I have good teachers and I have elders. There's nothing new under the sun. So I want us to look at this with an open eye.
Islam.
I'm curious, who has a copy of The Hidden Science of Melanin? Just raise your hands. Oh, look at that. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So if you want to get it signed today, you can get it signed. And by the way, for the people who do have a copy, we do have the larger print copy today. Yeah. But people who come to the Hidden Science Academy, the events, they learn a lot. So I'm hoping that you guys got your notepads and pens ready. Yeah. We do events, we do online courses, we do webinars and that sort of stuff. So check us out, thehiddenscienceacademy.com. And I'm curious, just show of hands, who's never been to a Hidden Science Academy event before? Show of hands. Wow. Wow. For those of you who have never been to a Hidden Science Academy event before, let the other people tell you one thing. Tell them one thing. You're going to learn today. You're going to learn today. You're going to learn today. So without further ado, I'd like to present to you the greatest Black historian in the world right now. Can we all make some noise and put our hands together for the one and only Robin Walker?
All right, now, let's go.
Okay, greetings.
The presentation is called The Civilization of the Moors, and I represent a company called the Black Secret Education Project. We are quietly empowering the people. Check us out. Our website is theblacksecret.co.uk, and you do have access to a free book that we are giving away, but you have to give us your email, 100 Black History Facts. All right, now, where do people like to begin African history? Is that not where everyone likes to start? Everyone's comfortable starting right here.
You mean white people?
Not just European people. So many people like to deal with this. Does anyone know what this is? It is Elephant and Castle, but what is the crest actually depicting?
I think it's East Indian. Is it an East Indian company?
This is actually the Royal African Company. Some people call it the Guinea Company. And this is what there's a book on heraldry, and they have a section called Royal African Company. And can you see it says supporters, 2 African blacks. Can we see that? And then underneath, we've got a certain motto in Latin. Anyone here speak Latin? Anybody? Regio, Floret. I have no idea what any of that stuff says. All right, but this is important. We're going to come back to this, right? All right, so where did the action take place? Here we have a map of Africa, a map of Southern Europe. You've got the Mediterranean. You need to know where Egypt is. You need to know where Libya is. You need to know where Carthage is, where Numidia is, where Ceuta is, where Spain is, because all of these places are important in the story. Right, so you've all located those places? Okay, good. Now, the world in the year 500 AD to 1100 AD was quite an interesting place. The western part of the Roman Empire was in decline, and because the Roman Empire was the civilizing force in Western Europe entered the Dark Age. Things were going very badly indeed. And no doubt you've been taught about the Dark Ages, but let's be clear, the Dark Ages is one place in the world. Anyone know where? Europe. It doesn't mean the rest of the world was in a Dark Age. Does that make sense? And consequently, the appropriateness of the term needs to be discussed. Now, what exactly was going on? According to a European professor, his name is Robert Briffaut, we read, from the 5th to the 10th century, Europe lay sunk in a night of barbarism, more awful and horrible than that of the primitive savage, for it's the decomposing body of what had been a great civilization. Cities had practically disappeared. They were pulled down and used as quarries to build towers in which a bishop or a baron established himself, who could afford some protection. In Nîmes, for example, the remains of the population dwelt in huts built among the ruins of the amphitheater. Other towns were completely abandoned. Famines and plagues were chronic. There were 10 devastating famines and 13 plagues in the course of the 10th century alone. Cases of cannibalism were not uncommon. There were manhunts, not with a view to plunder, but for food. Are we understanding this? All right, now when I read that, the obvious question is, for real? So what do all the European scholars say? Joseph McCabe wrote a book called The New Science and the Story of Evolution, where he says, none of our modern sophistry redeems the squalor of Europe from the 5th to the 11th century. By the year 1000, Europe was reduced to a condition which, if we were not Europeans, we should frankly call barbarism. Yet at that time, the Arabs had a splendid civilization in Spain, Sicily, Egypt, and Persia, and linked it on to those of India and China. Now, you'll notice that Joseph McCabe has called what happened in Spain Arab. Interesting. In other words, couldn't bring himself to go as far as he needed to go, but it's cool. All right, what about the civilization of the Moors? There's a Muslim chronicler, and we read, Cordova is the bride of Andalusia. To her belong all the beauty and all the ornaments that delight the eye or dazzle the sight. Her long line of sultans form her crown of glory. Her necklace is strung from the pearls her poets have gathered from the ocean of language. Her dress is of the banners of learning, well knit together by her men of science, and the masters of every art and industry are the hem of her garments. You've never heard a city described like that. And you can read about this in the story of the Moors in Spain. Okay, now, what are the details? The Muslim city of Cordoba in Spain was much like a modern city by at least the year 950 AD. It had raised streets drained by sewers. It had raised pavements, it had street lamps, and it had a population of 1 million people. There were at least 200,000 properties and 60,000 mansions and palaces for the elite. The grander homes were 2 stories. They had latrines, running water, and the fine gardens surrounded the large buildings. There were 900 public baths and many private baths, 800 public schools and many colleges. Education was offered to girls as well as boys. This is an Islamic situation. We're understanding this. The El Zahra Palace, almost a city by itself, had 15,000 doors of brass and iron. By the way, I did actually visit that site. It is off the charts. If you get the opportunity, visit Spain, check out the Medinet El Zahra Palace. There were 4,000 markets where you could buy Chinese tea, Indian spices, Russian furs, African ebony and ivory, and locally made goods. I know people are thinking, Robin, you're exaggerating. We ready for this? We feeling that? Do you think we should go inside? All right, the building is called the Great Mosque of Cordoba. The Spanish today call it La Mezquita. And if you then look up at one part of the ceiling, that's what's there. Not exactly jungle savagery, is it? All right, now about the presentation. We're going to deal with a few themes. Who are the Moors and what terms were used to describe the Muslims in Spain? I'm going to briefly talk about the conquest of Granada. I'm going to talk about the Umayyad dynasty, the Almoravid dynasty, the Almohad dynasty, and the Kingdom of Granada. So these are the themes that I want to get with in today's session, time permitting. All right, let's go. The peopling of North Africa is a complicated story. And it's complicated because North Africa is made up of multiple populations. Now, the very first people there were Africans, and they were descended from the people who created the Saharan rock paintings, and their descendants in North Africa are still there. They're called the Haratin Berbers and the Chauchen Berbers. Then you had a second group of people joining the populations in North Africa, Europeans. There was a European invasion of Egypt, and this invasion was during the time of Ramses III, and these invaders were called the Sea Peoples, coming in from the sea. And they had a big impact, and their descendants are in North Africa today. Then there was the Roman occupation of North Africa in the 2nd century BC, and the Romans ruled North Africa right up until the Arab period. And there was also the Vandal invasion. The Vandals are Germanic speakers. Does that make sense? And that's a very, very important part of history. Scholars don't want to talk about it too much, but it's a very important part of history. Trust me on that one. If I've got some time, I might get into it a little bit later on in the presentation. Then, of course, there was the Arab conquest of North Africa. The reason why so many North Africans are called Arabs is because they're not indigenous to Africa. They come in from Arabia, they conquered their way. Does that make sense? And they conquered in the 7th century AD, and right now, 2022, they're still there, and they are the dominant population. Then you have Europeans, another group of Europeans entering North Africa as slaves. And these people entering North Africa as slaves came from the Slavic states. Slavic states, Eastern Europe. Does that make sense? One of the reasons why Eastern Europeans are to this very day called Slavs, and one of the reasons why Western Europeans have beef with Eastern Europeans. And as you know, that's what Brexit was all about. Right? Someone must have mentioned the war. All right, and then you had another group of people joining the population in North Africa, Africans, who were captured as slaves and brought there after the 16th century. Does that make sense? Now, the point is, do not confuse group 1 with group 5. Are we understanding this? And scholars do that. And why they do that is so they can present all black North Africans as descended from slaves in the 16th century, and then present the Europeans that conquered during the Sea Peoples period as the original North Africans. Do you get it? This is why the details matter. Okay, now the original Moors, the oldest art in North Africa are the Saharan rock paintings. And the Saharan rock paintings, we feeling that image? And if you can Google them, you can see they're all Africans. And the descendants of that are the Haratin Berbers and the Chowchen Berbers. And that's what a typical Haratin looks like, right? But we mentioned the Sea Peoples, the Vandals, the Romans, and their descendants, and intermarriage took place between them and the original Moors. Does that make sense? So you now have Moors that look like this. Are we understanding that? Now, this woman is a part of Moorish history too. Does that make sense? So what usually happens is black scholars say, well, the term Moor means black, so it's black history. No, she's in it as well. Does that make sense? Yeah? All right. So what are the terms that appear in the literature? You've got the term Moor, which is the European term meaning dark or black. That's the term Europeans use to describe the black people in Spanish history. Then you've got the term Berber, and that's the term that Arab scholars use. It's a linguistic term, people speaking Berber. The origins of Berber, by the way, is in East Africa, in the Horn of Africa. You can link ancient Egyptian, you can link Berber, you can link Cushitic, which is Somali, you can link Hausa or Chadic. They all go back to one parent, which is in the Horn of Africa. That automatically tells you that the very first Berber speakers were sub-Saharan Africans. Then you've got the term Arab. Now, a lot of scholars are happier using that because it's better than saying African. Do you see why people are happier saying that? Now, in truth, the term Arab can, with justification, be used because the official language used during the Moorish period was indeed Arabic, all right? Then you've got the term Saracen. Right, you old heads here, who remembers the TV series Gladiators? Right, did you notice that all the black gladiators had race-specific names? There was Shadow. Everyone's forgotten this, right? All right, for you young heads here, this is what Britain was like back in the day. So you got the gig, you became Shadow, you became Rhino, you became Nightshade. And of course, yeah, Google this. And of course, you had Saracen. Now, what the word Saracen means is desert dweller. It's coming from the word Sahara. The problem with the term desert dweller is it doesn't tell us, is this the African desert or the Arab desert? Which one? Does that make sense? All right, now, the Arabian invasion of North Africa was of great consequence. The Arabs conquered their way across between 639 and 708 AD. Many Africans fled south from North Africa to lands south of the Sahara to avoid being enslaved. This is why in Africa today, non-blacks live north of the Sahara and blacks live south of the Sahara. Do we get this? And if you visit any one of the North African countries, the further south you go, the blacker everybody gets, right? Now, those that remained converted to Islam. The Arabs occupied Egypt in 639 AD. They occupied Tripoli, which is Libya, 643 AD, and southwest Morocco by 681 AD. I'm using terms like Morocco because you know where it is on a map. These countries didn't exist under those names at that time. In 698, they appointed Musa ibn Nusair governor of North Africa. However, Musa wanted to take control of Spain, but feared that an invasion at this time would exhaust his armies. So he had to think of, what am I going to do next? Musa ibn Nusair is a Yemeni, so he's from the Arabian Peninsula. But the Yemenis, do any of them look like any of you? Yes. Yes. So that's another story. All right, so what was going on in Spain? Well, in Spain, the Visigoths, the Germans, had been in control for the previous 200 years. And they are the ancestors of modern Spanish identity. Does that make sense? So if you're Spanish, your ancestors are the Goths. Does that make sense? And it's during this same time period, these German speakers basically conquer the Roman Empire. They also conquer their way into Britain and they become the English. Do you get that? So what does that mean? It means before 500 AD, no, 400 and something AD, there weren't any English people living in England. Do you know where they were living? Germany. Yeah. All right. Now, the Goths seized Spain from the rule of the ailing Roman Empire that was collapsing during this period. So what did Musa do next? He sent a reconnaissance mission of 500 African converts to Islam into Spain, led by an African called Tarif. Using 4 ships supplied by Musa, they landed in Spain and they plundered a port, and they gave the port a new name, Tarifa. What about that? Named after Tarif, right? And what happened is the Moors imposed a special tax at that port, and that's the origin of the word tariff, right? Did we know this? Aren't you glad you're here? All right, so in 711, Musa sent a second and more formidable African army into Spain, led by Tariq ibn Ziyad. Tariq ibn Ziyad was an African, and he led an expeditionary force of 6,700 African soldiers, 300 Arab translators and propagandists, and they occupied a portion of Spain, and then they renamed that part that they occupied the Rock of Tariq, Jebel Tariq, Gibraltar. We understanding this? Yeah? So that too is named after an African. Yeah? Okay, now European writer from the time period, there's a European monk, and this is what he said happened. The reins of their horses were as fire, their faces black as pitch, their eyes shone like burning candles, their horses were swift as leopards, and the riders fiercer than a wolf in a sheepfold at night. The noble Goths were broken in an hour, quicker than tongue can tell. O luckless Spain. Now, can you see that there's a description of the Moors that you don't often see? Faces black as pitch. So that tells us that dark-skinned Moors were the majority, but the light-skinned ones were also there. Right? Okay, the early years. The early years of Islamic rule in Spain were unstable. There were 19 governors over Córdoba between 716 and 747. When you have a large number of rulers in a short period of time, that's political instability. Right? Actually, I did not want to mention Kwesi, but yeah, there it is. All right, so what happened next? Well, the Muslims took control of land vacated by the Spaniards, who fled north. Arabs settled the most fertile part of the south and left Africans poorer land in central Spain and areas closer to the north. And this led to conflict between Musa, the Arab overlord, but let's be quite clear, Yemeni overlord, and Tariq, the African subordinate. An African and Arab conflict would escalate and even blowing up into civil war. So they had to find a ruler who could unite both. And this ruler was Abd al-Rahman I. He's said to have been part Arab, i.e. Yemeni, and part African. So he would have been fully black, in other words. Right? In May 756, he became the ruler of Islamic Spain and the first of the Umayyads. He divided the country into military districts and administered it on that basis, and he created a standing army of 40,000 men who were mostly Africans. In agriculture, he made developments that led to the growth of the farming industry. He introduced accurate land surveying, built granaries to combat food shortages, and established effective irrigation canals. From the Middle East, he imported cotton, fruits, rice, spices, sugarcane, and vegetables. And so the industries that developed from Abd al-Rahman's policies were sugarcane and cotton were planted near the Mediterranean coastal regions. Figs and olives were farmed in the south. Oranges and wine were cultivated in Granada and Malaga provinces. Oranges, rice, and palm trees sprouted in Valencia. A silk industry grew up in Murcia. Leatherworking and dyeing flourished in Córdoba. Ordnance developed in Toledo, and ceramics industry prospered in Almeria. Now, this is what the Science Museum in Granada has to say. We've got here hydraulic technology. Great advances were made in hydraulic technology in El Andalus, Andalusia, Spain. The traditions of classical engineering were combined with new ideas emanating from the Islamic world from two principal sources, Syria and North Africa. The Eastern writer, El-Yaziri, was a leading proponent of these ideas. So, new ideas, what dates, please? What dates? 12th and 13th centuries. Does that make sense? And when this happened, this was new. We getting this? And then they have an example of a water wheel, and then they have the animal-powered water lifting device. Can you see that? Yeah? Now, medieval Nubia had sakias. Can you see that that sakia is the same as that? Does that make sense? All they did was they changed the four-legged beastie in the picture. Yes? And then we read Ibn Halkal writing in 951 AD. What date, please? 951 AD. The most prosperous part of the country, Nubia, is the territory of Alwa, which has a continuous chain of villages and a continuous strip of cultivated land, so that a traveler may in one day pass through many villages, one joining the next, supplied with waters drawn from the Nile by means of sakias. 951 AD's 10th century. So why did the Granada Museum say the 12th and 13th century stuff was new? Why did they say that? Well, let's look again. We read about the new stuff, and we read that it was an Eastern writer called El-Yazari. Do you see? So they wanted to credit him. Now, why did they want to credit him? One wonders why they'd want to credit him. All right, now keeping it moving. How do we know the culture was mostly African? Well, when you read the descriptions of the early sultans of Spain, some of them are described as blonde, white, copper-colored, brown, reddish, dark, frizzly-haired, woolly-haired, etc. Well, they don't sound like Africans, so what's going on? Answer, huge amounts of intermarriage. Yeah? But so how do we know the culture was African? Well, in 1992, the Journal of Human Biology carried an article called Importation Route of the Sickle Cell Trait into Portugal, Contribution of Molecular Epidemiology. Let's read it. To elucidate the origin and spread of the sickle cell trait into the Portuguese population, we examined 9 polymorphic DNA markers within the beta-globin gene cluster defining the haplotype. The population sample included 64 sickle cell gene-bearing individuals from defined Portuguese-speaking white, black, and Asian Indian populations. The nature and geographic distribution of the different beta-S haplotypes in Portugal suggests that the sickle cell trait has been imported twice. How many times, please? Twice. Okay, so we're interested in the first one, aren't we? Between the 8th and 13th centuries from the Mediterranean basin in association with the Benin haplotype, and after the 15th century from Black Africa over an Atlantic route, Senegal and Bantu haplotypes. Okay, 8th to 13th century, that's 700 AD to 1200 AD. Isn't that the period we're talking about? And what type of sickle cell is it, folks? The Benin haplotype. Did we know this? Did we know this? So therefore, we can infer that the culture indeed was mostly African. Now, what does the term Moor mean? It was a geographical term of Phoenician origin, and it originally meant Western. The Phoenicians applied the term to the people of Northwest Africa. Another theory claims that the word Moor is derived from a Kushite capital city called Meroe. Now, the Greeks and Romans adopted the term Mori, but also described these same Northwest Africans as Nigri, black, and Adusti, scorched. The Latin word Morus became a synonym with another Latin word, Niger, which means black. In other European languages, the association of the term Moor with Negroes continued well into the Renaissance period, as you know, because Shakespeare did that, right? Now, example, did you know that there was a Catholic saint called Saint Benedict the Moor? And then we read on the Catholic website, Benedict the Moor was born a slave near Messina, Italy. We read on. Then at the very end it says, the surname, the Moor, is a misnomer. So why is it a misnomer? Originating from the Italian il Moro, meaning the black. Now, if il Moro in Italian means the black, what does el Moro in Spanish mean? In it, to use the technical. However, Spanish students of mine, I used to be a school teacher, they insisted that the term morena does not mean black, it means brown. Does that make sense? All right, so we're going to investigate. Now, there are also Wikipedia pages that claim that the term Moor is not an ethnic term, it's a religious term meaning Muslim. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah,
All right, let's test this hypothesis. Now, there are modern scholars that will concede that the term Moor does indeed mean black, but according to them, the word Moor means black in every single language except Spanish. Does that make sense? And in Spanish, it doesn't mean black. What does it mean? All right, so there's a passage in the Bible, Song of Songs, and some of you know this. I am black but comely, O you daughters of Jerusalem. Does that make sense? We got that? So what I did was I pulled up a Spanish Bible to find out how was that translated. And guess what word they use for black? Morena, which we've been led to believe means brown. All right, hold that thought. So you know what I did? There's something called, you've got these various texts, they call it apologetics, where they're breaking down different words of the Bible. Now, can you see where it's got there? The girl's uncertainty, and then you've got third paragraph, RSV, very dark. Can you see that's the same word that was translated as morena? We read on. JB, AV, ASV, more correctly, black. All right, let's carry on. This particular form is used only 6 times in the Old Testament. In this context, the word is hyperbolic. Suntan makes one swarthy, but not black. Although the simile at Song, chapter 5, verse 11, indicates that the meaning of the word is shiny black. So what is therefore the correct translation of morena? Shiny black. Now, how black is that? All right, now do you remember this? And you're wondering, what's this got to do with anything, right? All right, now, what's really interesting about this is Samuel Pepys had something to say. Samuel Pepys, 23rd of May, 1663. This is his diaries. And so we parted. Only there was walking in the gallery some of the Barbary company. And there we saw a draft of the arms of the company which the king is of, and so is called the Royal Company, which is in a field argent, an elephant proper with a canton on which England and France is quartered, supported by 2 Moors. The crest and anchor winged, I think it is, and the motto too tedious. And can you see that's that same Latin thing that I couldn't read earlier? So can you see that at the time, people said these were Moors, and then later on, it was now pretended that it was 2 African blacks. Now, if you can confuse the two, it means that Moors can be confused for African blacks. And we have to thank Sir Samuel Pepys for dropping the science on us. Okay, what about the Arabs? Now, the Arabs in Spain were mostly Southern Arabs and Yemenites, and even today, many of these people are Negroid. And taken with the Africans, the Islamic culture of Spain was largely a Negro achievement. For this reason, the culture is known as the Moors in Spain, a reference to the black color of the conquering group, whether from Africa, who were the majority, or whether they were Southern Arabs or Yemenis, who were the minority. All right, now during the pinnacle of intellectual culture in 950 AD, Joseph McCabe tells us books were now in such demand that Professor Ribera estimates Cordova alone produced 70,000 to 80,000 a year, all beautifully handwritten and very richly bound. The old parchment roll was discarded, and the manufacture of paper, which the Persians had learned from the Chinese, occupied large mills at Zatifa. The Caliph had a superbly housed collection of at least 400,000, some writers say 600,000 books, in rich bookcases. Courtiers and rich merchants followed his example, and libraries of 10,000 to 50,000 works were found in the mansions of the wealthy. Even the humbler classes thirsted for books, says Ribera. And the servants or ladies of the harem were of higher price if they were well read. The wit of the learned is as precious as the blood of the martyr, a popular proverb ran. One copying shop at Cordova employed 170 women, and women authors were highly esteemed. And what that means is there is therefore going to be a genre of black women writers once those documents are tracked down. Okay, so a summary of the Moorish achievements then. The silk industry, agriculture where they were growing rice, sugarcane, dates, ginger, cotton, lemons, and strawberries. Mining, where they were mining gold, silver, tin, and lead. There was a maritime industry. There were factories turning out sword blades, turning out shields, turning out brass and iron implements, and the sciences such as the number system we have today, the compass, the teaching of geography from a globe. By the way, the compass, that wasn't an African invention. Somebody else did that, but bringing it into Spain was the Moors. Teaching of geography from a globe, yes. There is a famous Moorish geography text by a scholar called El Idrisi, and he says the world is as round as a sphere, and the waters are adherent on it by a process of natural equilibrium, he means gravity, and it is divided into 360 degrees. This is in a Moorish geography book, 1153. Are we feeling this? Yeah, that book, by the way, the other name for it is Kitab Ruja, the Book of Roger. Moreover, the materia medica that Europe had right up until the 1900s was the same one that the Moors introduced. How do we know this? H.G. Wells drops that information. Right, now impact in Europe. By 950 AD, centers of learning were just beginning in Christian Europe. Located at Barcelona, Toulouse, Marseille, Lyon, Segovia, etc., they existed to translate texts from Arabic to Latin. All right, how much time have I got? How much time have I got?
As long as you want. Carry on.
All right, stretch time. Everyone get up. Okay, so it's like this. Right. If someone hasn't stood up, feel free to tickle that person. All right, so it's left like this. Good. It's to the right like this. Good. It's to the back like this. Good. It's like this. Good. All right, thanks a lot, sit down. Okay, I'm going to have to push the pace. Right, the next chapter of the history of the Moors in Spain concerns the Almoravids. So we're now in the African deserts among the Berbers of North and West Africa. In the year 1048, Yahya ibn Ibrahim, ruler of the Berbers of the desert, made a pilgrimage to Mecca. He returned to North Africa with a religious teacher from Mecca called Ibn Yazin, and Yazin attempted to teach Islam among the desert Berbers. He failed and was chased away. So everyone then ended up fleeing to Tekra on the Senegal River. So we're now in Senegal. There they established a monastery and lived as recluses, and then people joined this movement from Senegal, and they became known as El Morabitun, or in English, Morabites. Another word is the French one, marabout. Does that make sense? This is all West Africa now. And the word that you see in the literature is Almoravids. Now in Tekra, the movement grew. Tekrarians wanted their independence from ancient Ghana and saw the new movement as a force that could win that independence. So in 1062, the Almoravids, the same group from the desert and now people from Senegal, they established Marrakesh, which is the African capital of their empire. So Marrakesh in Morocco used to be a black city. 1076, they conquered ancient Ghana and held it for some years. Tekra became independent of Ghanaian imperial rule. By the time we get to 1082, there were hundreds of Moors and Arabs streaming into Africa, fleeing the campaigns of the Christians because the Moorish rule, the Arab rule in Spain had become unstable and the Europeans were kicking off. So people fled to Africa. They visited Yusuf, leader of the Berbers, and they begged him to get an army together to help to assist the Muslims against the Christian onslaught that was taking place in Spain. Yusuf raised an army said to have included every ethnic group in the Western Desert and sent them across the sea into Spain, where the African army beat the Christians at Zalaka 1086. That is Yusuf ibn Tashfin. We feeling that? Now, just to put it in perspective, Yusuf ibn Tashfin. Can you see Mansa Musa's on the same map? Yes. Who's darker? Right, so can you see the Moor is darker than the Negro? Are you feeling this? Now, isn't that powerful evidence? So anyone wants to run up their mouth, show them this. All right, so did they build anything in Africa? In Marrakesh, that's one of the monuments there. So if you go in that monument and you look up, that's what's there. Now, as ruler of Spain, Yusuf's forces seized Seville, dethroned its Islamic rulers. He accused them of being sunk in pleasure and sloth. And the result was the Almoravid Empire had a court in Africa centered in Marrakesh and a court in Spain centered in Seville. And according to Lady Lugard, this established once more a supreme sultan upon the throne of Andalusia. The dynasty which he founded must be regarded as an African conquest and an African dynasty. That's coming from Lady Lugard, the same woman that named Nigeria. Nigeria, same woman. All right, now the Almoravid Empire was very extensive. Under their sway were the lands of Senegal, Morocco, Algeria, Tunis, and Spain, with 13 kings acknowledging the overlordship of Yusuf. So can we see a map? We feeling that? A little bit big, isn't it? So what did they achieve? The Almoravids are probably the people responsible for spreading golden coinage into Europe. From the 12th century, the Christian Spaniards minted golden coinage to imitate the Almoravid coins. In 13th century mints in Florence, Genoa, Marseille, and Venice turned out golden coins in imitation of those of the Christian Spaniards. And in 14th century Europe, Northern Europe, we start to see golden coins. And when golden coins were made in Britain, what name were they given? Guineas. And according to El Idrisi, I mentioned him a minute ago, El Idrisi, gold was minted at some place in the extreme west of Africa in the 12th century and put into circulation. That might be where the Almoravid coins came from. All right. Okay, now, the Almoravids tried something in Spain. We're not quite sure what the something was, but they got their butts whooped. And the result then was the Kingdom of Aragon issued a crest that shows that the Christian cross has beaten the 4 Moorish princes. Does that make sense? All right, now can you see how the Moors are depicted? No ambiguity there, right? And then when the Habsburg dynasty came along, they took the same crest and turned it into one of their coins. And can you see that not only have we got the crowns, can you see the hair? Are we feeling that? And you know, you've got places like Corsica, Sardinia, those kind of places. You want to look at their flags. Yeah, we are on their flags. All right, now, that was the Almoravids. The next dynasty are the Almohades, and they began as a religious movement among the Masmuda Berbers of Morocco. And according to the documents from the time, the Masmuda Berbers were described as blacks by Abu Shama in his Kitab al-Rabdatayan. Blacks, Sudan. Does that make sense? So in 1106, Ibn Tumart completed his religious education and preached against the Almoravid establishment, who he accused of being lax and luxurious. So Ibn Tumart himself was declared to be the Mahdi, which is the Messiah. What happened next? Well, Abdul Mumin, another Masmuda Berber, took control of the movement. He was a brilliant organizer who unified the various Berber groups into a cohesive force. And there was therefore a power struggle between the Almoravid establishment and the newly rising Almohades. And the newcomers triumphed in 1147. They seized Marrakesh and executed the last Almoravid monarch. The documents say he was deprived of his head. And 1150, they became masters of Spain. Thus, for a second time, says Lady Lugard, a purely African dynasty reigned upon the most civilized throne of Europe. This is why you've got to quote this stuff. You follow me? All right, so did they build anything in Africa? This is the Kutubia Mosque of Marrakesh. Let's take a look inside. Is that not exquisite? We feeling that? All right, now the city of Seville in Spain became the African capital in Spain. Was a fine city of famous gardens, squares, and a suspension bridge. It had good streets lined with magnificent buildings and spacious houses. The courtyards were planted with trees that bore oranges, lemons, and other fruits. And they had a population of perhaps 500,000 people. Right, that's there right now. We feeling that? This is the El Cazaba Palace. If you get the opportunity to take a look, take a look. And of course, the Heralde of Seville. Now that is, that building now is a cathedral, but you can infer what it would have been before it was a cathedral. It was the mosque. Yeah? Meanwhile, did I mention that there were translation houses that were established in certain parts of Europe that were translating texts from Arabic to Latin? By now, those places had borne fruit. And by the 12th and 13th centuries, we get the rise of the major European universities. Bologna in Italy, 1158. Montpellier, France, 1180. Oxford, England, 1200. Toulouse, France, 1223. Rome, Italy, 1245. Cambridge, England, 1257. Are we feeling this? And this is the beginnings of what's going to become known as the European Renaissance. Now, there was much disunity among the Almohades, and therefore things fell apart. There was African and Arab disunity. I don't want to get into that. No, let me get into that. Why not? Have we got time? There's a document, Abu Ghaffar refusing the post of Secretary of Granada, and he refused the post because he had to work along the Sultan's son. And he wrote, the dark-skinned Berber seemed to him far below his own intellectual standards. Now, just marinate on that. All right, now the Kingdom of Granada. Right, this is now the 4th dynasty. And according to Professor Lane Poole, the Kingdom of Granada was the last bulwark of the Moors in Spain. It was not much that was now left of them. Between 1238 and 1260, Fernando III of Castile and Jaime I of Aragon conquered Valencia, Córdoba, Seville, and Murcia. And the rule of the Moors was now restricted to the present province of Granada. Within this limit, however, their kingdom was destined to endure for another 2 centuries and a half. Though hemmed in on all sides, the Moors were well served by soldiers. The people of the conquered cities, the most valiant warriors of the vanquished Muslim states, came to place their swords at the disposal of the one remaining Mohammedan king. 50,000 Moors are recorded to have fled to his protection from Valencia, and 300,000 from Seville, Xeres, and Cadiz. Nevertheless, Granada was forced to become tributary to the Castilian crown. The founder of the dynasty of the Beni Nazir, i.e. the Nazrids, an Arab called Ibn el-Ahmar, the red man because of his fair skin and hair, was a vigorous sovereign. So this now is not an African dynasty. This is now an Arab dynasty. Does that make sense? But it seems that Africans stepped very, very correctly. Here's how. Because it seems that they worked out, better marry him off to this woman and keep that going. So by the time we get to the end of this dynasty, they're black. So yeah, they stepped very correctly here. What have we got? Okay, now in the case of Ibn el-Ahmar, we read, he paid homage and tribute to Fernando and his son Alfonso the Learned, not, however, without more than one struggle to free himself from their yoke. And from that time forward, Granada, with its surrounding territory, was generally left alone. All right, now what's there? We feeling this? By the way, if you ever go to the site of Alhambra and you want to document what's there, it will take you about 4 hours to photograph everything. And that's if you're at it. Yeah? All right, towards endgame. After 1417, however, Muslim leadership in Granada became more and more unstable. There were short-lived reigns, factional fighting, and rulers getting their backing from the Christians. After 1469, the kingdoms of the Christians, Aragon and Castile, had become united by the marriage of Ferdinand and Isabella. From 1484, they campaigned against the Moors and gradually closed in and then blockaded the city. So we get the conquest of Granada, 2nd of January, 1492. Ferdinand and Isabella entered Granada as its masters. They exiled Abu Abdallah. Abu Abdallah is his proper name, but in European accounts, he's called Boabdil. Abu Abdallah, Boabdil, same person. So they exiled Abu Abdallah, where his descendants learned to beg for their daily bread. 4 years later, King Manuel of Portugal ordered the expulsions of the Africans. Those expulsions continued up to the time of King Philip III, who completed the policy in 1609. Some returned to North and West Africa, but others fled elsewhere in Europe. Where in Europe did some of them go? England. You follow me? John Blank, all that stuff. Yeah, they end up here, some of them. It is stated, writes Professor Lane Poole, that no less than 3 millions of Moors were banished between the fall of Granada and the first decade of the 17th century. They were cleaned out. All right, now the question is how do the Spaniards remember this? Now, a documentary was made by Raggy Omar, and it's like, bruh, you dropped the ball. You're going to see how Raggy Omar dropped the ball. Talking about things that don't matter, when things that do matter don't get mentioned. Does that make sense? But why it's important is there's a Spanish ritual where they've got these puppets that they're holding up. And the puppets you can infer, one of them is supposed to be Ferdinand, one of them is supposed to be Isabella, one of them is supposed to be Boabdil, Abu Abdallah, and one of them is Boabdil's mother. Now the mother is veiled. Does that make sense? But you can see her hands. All right, check this out, you all.
The only remnants of Islamic Al-Andalus in this procession are these giant puppets of Granada's last Muslim rulers, Boabdil and his queen. But of the Jews, nothing remains. And those who converted even lost their identities. They were given Christian names. But to the church, they would always be infidels at heart.
Did you like the betrayal of Abu Abdallah and his mother? Are we feeling that? And notice it wasn't me that did that. I ain't got nothing. They didn't ask me, trust me. That's how the Spanish are remembering that. All right, a European scholar's assessment. Professor Lane Poole says, in 1492, the last bulwark of the Moors gave way before the Crusader Ferdinand and Isabella, and with Granada fell all Spain's greatness. For a brief while indeed, the reflection of the Moorish splendor cast a borrowed light upon the history of the land, which it had warmed with its sunny radiance. The great epoch of Isabella, Charles V, Philip II, Columbus, Cortez, and Pizarro shed a last halo about the dying moments of a mighty state. Then followed the abomination of desolation, the rule of the Inquisition, and the blackness of darkness in which Spain has been plunged ever since. In the land where science was once supreme, the Spanish doctors became noted for nothing but their ignorance and incapacity, and the discovery of Newton and Harvey were condemned as pernicious to the faith. Where once 70 public libraries had fed the minds of scholars and 500,000 books had been gathered together at Cordova for the benefit of the world, such indifference to learning afterwards prevailed that the new capital, Madrid, possessed no public library in the 18th century. And even the manuscripts of the Escurial were denied in our own days to the first scholarly historian of the Moors, though himself a Spaniard. The 16,000 looms of Seville soon dwindled to a fifth of their ancient number. The arts and industries of Toledo and Almeria faded into insignificance. The very baths, public buildings of equal ornament and use, were destroyed because cleanliness savored too strongly of rank infidelity. In other words, if you washed yourself too much, that proves that you're not a real Christian. Get it? That's what that means, right? The land, deprived of the skillful irrigation of the Moors, grew impoverished and neglected. The richest and most fertile valleys languished and were deserted. Most of the populous cities which filled every district of Andalusia fell into ruinous decay, and beggars, friars, and bandits took the place of scholars, merchants, and knights. So low fell Spain after she had driven away the Moors. Such is the melancholy contrast offered by her history. Now, let me just say one thing about this. In the 19th century, that's the period where scholars were developing theories of white racial superiority. Does that make sense? And there was something that was around called the Negro question. And the great philosopher, John Stuart Mill, addressed the Negro question by saying two things. What about ancient Egypt? And the next one was, what do you think he said next? What about Spain? And at the time, no one could answer. Because, this book had come out. What were people going to say now? What about Spain? All right, so my name's Robin Walker. I'm part of the Black Secret Education Project. We are quietly empowering the people. Definitely take a photograph of this. Our website is www.theblacksecret.co.uk. It is a subscription site. So if you want to subscribe, you can get all of our content. But if you don't want to subscribe and you want the free book, 100 Black History Facts, give us your email and we will send you that book. Go through that site, get that material. And that concludes the presentation, The Civilization of the Moors. Thank you very much.
Islam. Can we stop it?
We are running slightly over time, but obviously it's really important that we have
Can we
engagement.
stop it?
So I want to take
Brian on
questions in
there.
rounds of.
Can we stop it, please? Islam. Good film. Good history. As we close, I want to show y'all a book. You know, if we got time, I want to show everybody this book right here. Oh, damn, I got my camera off. My bad. I recommend everybody to get this book. If you don't have it, I don't know if I sent this to my muftis. I think I converted this one to a PDF already, but we just like to teach from a perspective of history. And this is the first Americans were Africans, a great piece of literature and history in the book. I recommend everybody to get it. But is there any questions as we close? Anybody got anything they want to add or just any insight? Anything?
Nothing to add. It was just very illuminating, and he's touching on a lot of the things you touched on here. It was just having somebody that's agreeing or how synchronizing with you. So yeah, it was very illuminating once again, and much gratitude.
Islam. I always challenge my brothers and sisters from a historical perspective to look at history. When you get an eye, when you see what's all over the Americas. On this cover, this is a real picture. This is in a natural history museum in London. This is an actual photo. This is document evidence by David Imhotep, PhD. The first Americans were Africans. And everybody and I know everybody get caught up, what Noble Drew Ali said, this. Listen, I love Noble Drew Ali, don't get me wrong, but we deal with scholarship. We have to start looking at things with the right eye, and really, really discover and don't put ourselves in a box, So as we teach and as we learn, just like the professor on his site, lecturing the same way I do, the same way, Noble Brian, that I had the luxury on academia to do this, where I said a lot of my lectures that the academia have. So now a lot of the stuff that I talk about, I'm just bringing it back here as we go to the next level. So the world can say, man, brother been doing this stuff for free, for donations for a while. He should get to that level. He should be there. Why? Because this is what happens. That's why I'm bringing people along with me for the ride, especially my muftis. I'm like, listen, man, there's nothing new under the sun. When I say us, I mean the common brothers and sisters haven't been introduced to wisdom and understanding. Because if you haven't been in academia and your parents haven't been in academia, and this is something that you haven't been brought up in, the average individual is not going to get this type of wisdom. It's just not. You're not gonna get there, because it'll be another reason why you see most brothers into things. When you see the average brother with a Fez on, they all in some sovereign citizen, some European Roger Elvig stuff, all talking about they finna overthrow the government or get some free. When you see the other religious person, the so-called Hebrew Israelite was an oxymoron, they on the corner too. So you see all this black stuff. I said, listen, we deal with history. We deal with who we are. And wisdom, we have the right to do this. If anybody else have the right to identify, you do too. And nobody can put you in the box, but we have to get historical. When our own people be saying, well, more mean this. And I say, for what scholarship are you saying that? It's no scholarship. So I just want to give a little preface of this wisdom. The first Africans were, the first Americans were Africans. And this is documented proof because some of the lost and stolen history African people in ancient America, you will discover the long antiquity of African people in the New World and how they contributed to the rise of civilization in the West. Most of us learned that people walked across a land bridge from northeastern Asia to Alaska about 12,000 years ago. He states, Dr. Imhotep destroys the notion that Clovis culture represents the first American civilization. Rather than begin his story of the African in America with the slave trade, Dr. Imhotep provides details about the first civilization in the New World, which were created by Black African people. Blacks are indirectly from Africa. Blacks are indirectly from Africa, just like our prophet said, what make us Moorish Americans? Because we born where? In America with what? Moroccan descent. Moroccan is African. We're born in America with African descent per se. This is what I tell people. I'm not no Moroccan. You know, I understand. I hope you do. But Africans are directly from Africa. We know that even though the Virginia passage between Asia and North America was blocked by ice between 110 and 12,000 years ago, archaeological evidence indicates that anomalistically, modern humans were living in South America between 30 and 15,000 years ago. Before that, we will learn that although the Ice Age was a barrier to man's overland migration to the New World, there were many Blacks here even before the ice melted. Several people of African origin entered the Americas, including the San, the Anu, or the Negrito type, and the Proto-Saharan variety of Blacks. You know, Proto means original, of the first, and Anu, the A-N-U, were the pygmy people, you know, who now live in hunter-gatherers in Africa. Yet it was they who founded the first civilization of Egypt before the rise of the first pharaoh, as well as the first civilization in Mesopotamia. Until recently, it was believed that the first humans crossed the Bering Strait 12,000 years ago to enter North American continent. As stated earlier, this view was never accepted by physical anthropologists who have found skeletal remains far older than 12,000 years ago in South America. Today, archaeologists have found sites from Argentina, Chile, that range in the age between 20,000 and 40,000 years old. These sites are Pedra Furada, 45,000 BC, and Serra de Capara, 50,000 years ago. The fact that the earliest dates for habitation of the American continent occurred below Canada and South America suggests that the earliest American settlers came from Africa before the ice melted at the Bering Strait and moved northward as the ice melted. That's why the prehistoric African presence in the New World may explain the affinities between African language and the Aramid family of languages, the Amerind, you know, that plethora of languages. What I'm saying, brothers and sisters, as we look at history and deal with history from a scholastic aspect with the right eye, you will see that the American continent was inhabited by Asian and African Blacks in very ancient times, because the oldest skeletal remains found in the Americas are of Black. Marquez observed that it is good to report that long ago, the youthful America was also a Negro continent. And Lanning noted that there was a possible movement of Negritos from Decatur into the Peru Valley, north of Chama and Viru in early times. Now, Pedra Furada, 45,000 BC, and Serra de Capabra, 50,000 years ago, archaeologists originally dated the former from 48,000 to 10,000 years. That's why at Pedra Furada, Brazilian archaeologists have found cave paintings, hearts, and deliberately flaked pebbles. All of these are evidence of human occupation. Charcoal samples from the campsite at the site to 65,000 years. The evidence shows the oldest skull in the Americas do not add to the theory that the first people in America entered from Asia in the West, but from Africa in the East. See, brothers and sisters, we're not going to diss the scholars that done the work, I hope. That's why when I tell people what's his name? it'll come to me. Not Godfrey Higgins. Is it Godfrey Higgins? Might be Godfrey Higgins. It's another one. It'll come to me. He wrote the book, The Annals. What's the brother? What's the European writer? It'll come to me. My nobles know. Several studies of the craniofacial morphology show that these Pale Indians, who were the first settlers of the New World, Leo Higgins. Come on, it's on my tongue. Clearly different from the modern Amerindians, the Amars, and East Asians. Their supposed descendants and sister group, respectively. These results gave support to a model in which morphologically generalized groups of non-Northeast Asian descent, the so-called Palo-Americans, entered the continent first and then dispersed from North to South America through Central America. You got to know that the appearance of the pebble tools at Mount Verde in Chile 32,000 years back, rock paints at Pier de Ferrada in Brazil 22,000 years ago, Macedon hunting in Venezuela and Colombia 13,000 years ago, research Dr. Walter's Knees, discovery of 12,000-year-old skeletons of an African. Research this history. I'm giving brothers and sisters a clear history. Leo Higgins. His book is The Annals. What's the author name, Brian? He wrote the history of the Annals of who
Alfred Church, Cornelius.
The Annals. It's the history of the first church fathers. It'll come to me, Noble Dantes. It's on my tongue. But I just want to skip through this. If anybody get it, let me know. We got a little bit more time. I want to highlight this history, man, Dantes, and I was so inspired, Noble, from you. Just even though I'm speaking, but since you came in, I got to say what I have to say because that's how the Spirit works with me. When things are on me, I have to say it. I'm just so inspired to see you and what your son is going to get, the education your son is going to get at home in the midst of. He's going to be able to ask questions. Anything that he want to know about him and finance, he's going to be so astute. And that's what I tell brothers when we have the luxury of having a young man, the astuteness, the astuteness that your son is going to have. Why? Because he's getting it. You know how some parents, when they grew up, they were all into the European aspect of Christianity. Oh, Jesus, this, but you're going to be able to show your son. Your son is going to be able to touch things. So when he go to school with come from so-called Black history, look at the homeschooling that you have for your son, Dantes.
Islam, Sheikh.
Like I could chill don't talk about that. I said, look at your homeschooling. You have a library on every topic. So your son can't be misnomer from nobody. Your son is not going to get that linguistic apartheid, that veil over his eyes that a lot of young people get, because this is not common. I'm trying to make it common. That's why I said, man, this is what needs to be taught. We have religion a long time. We need this in the church houses. This is what we own.
Islam.
It should be common.
They need to know.
Yes.
They need to know.
Yes. You said it when school started back. We talk about auto suggestion. Talk about the mind. We need to know this. We need to know who we are. Listen to this rich history as I give a little bit more. Dr. Imhotep also fills us on the medieval African navigators who explored the Americas, especially the exhibition of Abukari II, emperor of the ancient Mali Empire. Now, you remember when the film that we were just watching, and you saw on the map who else, when you had Mansa Musa, who else was on that map? I hope we saw that, the darker Moor, Yusuf the First of Spain, right? We connecting dots, y'all. It's right there in the film.
First of Spain.
And when we play the film next week of the professor talking about the Book of the Dead, it's going to all fall in line. He provides a detailed discussion on the watercraft culture and the intellectual gifts that they gave various American Indian groups they encountered in the New World. David also puts to rest the notion that the Norsemen and the Celtic mariners visited America before Columbus. He is especially wary of the data provided by Dr. Fell in his book, America BC. See, when I get that, I tell people, I don't study too much not to believe nothing in no book. That's what I tell people. A lot of times, as a scholar, you have to deal with truth and falsehood. It's almost like being in a laboratory with your test tubes and beakers. when you're dealing with history, when you're dealing with it as a thing that should be holistic, ongoing, is you should be a walking what? Contradiction per se. What? Meaning to be stand corrected by what? The research. That's why. The research have to get you there. You know?
It's long.
We have to do this. And watch this. Watch as we do this wisdom, y'all. In the two books, The Saga and American BC, Dr. Fields argues that the theory. He believed that the Europeans had colonies in the northeast and the southwest part of the United States. In support to this theory, Dr. Field has published a number of inscriptions, which he claims were made by these early Europeans. But watch this, y'all, from scholarship. The only problem with the theory is that the ancient Celts and first Vikings were Black people. And the inscriptions he claimed were written by Europeans were really written by Mandi-speaking people of Mali, who settled many parts of the Americas after 1300 AD. See, these is facts. I mean, listen, C.V. Haynes Jr., Geofacts and Fanning, Natural History, February 1988, page 4 to 12. It's history. Voices from the Past, Natural History. You know, J.H. Greenberg, Language of the Americas, Stanford University Press, 1987. We're dealing with scholarship. We're not dealing with how nobody feel. That ain't how we do. The Celts were originally Black people. In reviewing Winters Ford, let us remember the ancient Greek historian Ephorus, 405 BC, claimed that the Celts were Black and Ethiopians. Tacitus, an ancient Roman historian, wrote about the Celts and the Picts being Black. Back in 80 AD, the Celts on the mainland of Europe were called Iberians. So when brothers be trying to quote that, what you say, Noble?
The painted ones.
Yes. So when the Nobles will be trying to quote Zachariah Stitcher and talk about some Anunnaki with all that fake stuff, well, boom, the Anunnaki is the Iberians. Sorry. I'm done. It's too simple.
Sorry, but not sorry.
Sorry, but not sorry, Malik. The Iberians or the Silures, the Silures. Although the original Celts were Black, over time their name was stolen by Europeans. Father O. Growney has discussed the history of the Celts. He makes it clear that the original Celts were the Iberians. The Iberians were probably conquered by the Ligurians. It suggests that the Ligurians may be represented by the modern Basque of Spain. The Ligurians took the name Celt. The Ligurians, the Celts, were conquered by the Gaulish-speaking people. The Gauls conquered the Ligurians and pushed them into Spain. It was the Gauls who imposed their language on the Iberian and the Ligurian Celts. The Gauls were Belgians, according to Father O'Growney. The Irish and the Welsh are descendants of the Gauls. These Gauls spoke Gaulish or Gaelic. The German conquered the Gaulish Celts, and the Gaulish disappeared around 4th century AD. So watch this. All of the Black Celts in Britain. Now we're dealing with David MacRitchie. What? The Ancient and Modern Britons. 2 volumes. Come on now. War of York, England. War of York, England. The reconstruction of the face of the ivory bangle lady. 350 AD indicates that she was African or Black. We already talked about Benedict de Moor, right? Benedict de Moor. Where was the Benedict de Moor? Where was all this at? In Spain. Come on now. Come on. Come on. Ding, ding, ding.
You said York Chic, Y-O-R-K?
Yep. The Ivory Lady of York, England. Yep. The reconstruction of the face of the Ivory Bangle Lady, 350 AD, indicates that she was African or Black. She was a wealthy woman whose features were indicative of the African type, common to the British Isles at that time. See, they know this. We should know this. We're not arguing because there's nothing to argue about. And you can't say it's racist and all this. History is not racist. There is genetic and linguistic evidence that proved that the Celts were Black or African people. An examination of the language spoken by the Basque indicates a Niger, which they like to say, they want to spell it with one N-I-G-E-R. Okay, well, Niger mean Black. How? What do you want to say, shiny Black? It's just what it is. So, okay, was Simon Jesus' brother? Yeah, okay, what did they call Simon? What? The Niger, right? Okay, yeah, I know. So he found that what? He found that the Niger or the Congo and the Basque language share personal pronouns, numerals, and certain vocabulary, family. There was also genetic evidence linking the Basque and the Niger Congo speakers. the evidence suggests that both groups had the same genetic ancestor, y'all. This linguistic and genetic evidence support the African origin of the Celts. You see, the original Danes of the Vikings were black. This made it clear in the depiction of the Osberg 8th century Vikings of the Norway sledge carving of the black seafarers that populated the region at that time. Research what I'm telling you. This is all the history you need, real history. It is clear from the carvings that the 8th century Vikings were different from the blonde, big-bodied folks of the Viking legends. Given the fact that the first Celts and the Vikings were black, makes it clear that even if these people did not reach the New World during the Middle Ages, they were not Europeans. But the proof that the first people to settle the Americas were Africans come from surviving inscriptions, family. This is liberating. Watch this. The inscriptions deciphered by Dr. Fell in his work were not written in the Old Norse language, as he claimed. Just like we debunk all the rest of the stuff from scholarship. I've done this in academia. These inscriptions were written by the followers of Abukari the Great, a ruler of the ancient Mali Empire, who made an expedition to the Americas in early 1300s. See, members of the Mali expedition left numerous inscriptions throughout the New World, family. Evidence showed that they wrote in the Manding writing system, which is understood by using the African Bai script to read the Mandi inscriptions the Malayans left in the Americas. So what happened is the author deciphered the Malayan scriptures in 1977. And this article was published a year before Dr. Fell published America BC. That's why when you get knowledge, you have to correct yourself. And if Dr. Fell is right here, he have to correct the teachings. That's why I say I study too much to believe anything in the book, because I have to cross-reference the cross-referencer. I have to research the researcher. You ask all my muftis what we say, he say, yes, now we got to cross-reference it. Now we got to research it with the time period, see if the language match. Just like when I showed you there wasn't no damn Willie Lynch letter. That language don't match. The time period don't match. The language we're using that time is all off. And in that dispensation, black wasn't used to describe ethnicity. So I don't even have to dig far into explaining what I'm saying from scholarship. It won't even take me long. In the article, the inscriptions were presented from the Americas, including Brazil and the American Southwest. So in 1979, y'all, Dr. Imhotep published it, you know, and the inscriptions came from the mound cultures in Pueblo culture, Nevada, Tennessee, New Mexico, and the desert. So it's evidence of this. And in Venezuela and the Adin culture, we find mound cultures similar to the Mandi mound cultures of ancient Mali, including a clay court and wooden house. Man, let me just show y'all. Let me see something. I want to just highlight some stuff. How could Columbus have discovered America when the Native Americans who were already there were looking through the bushes at the beach where Columbus stood? On a lot of money, you can see this, y'all. When you research what an American is, the copper color races found here by the Europeans, you can't find them that was already here. Yeah, we almost done.
Oh.
If Columbus discovered America, how could people be living there already? I don't know. Columbus' second trip that was financed by Ferdinand and Isabella, he was looking for things. It's now accepted that Columbus didn't discover America. A lot of good that, you know, they did back then, they say. But it's now accepted that Columbus never even set foot on North. Instead, he spent his time in the Caribbean islands. So the Native Americans were in North America before Columbus. However, even the Native Americans were not the first people in America. See, this is what we know. We deal with history. Unfortunately, writers of history in the Western Hemisphere have not eliminated this Columbus fairy tale from their textbooks. And this is what your children are going to get. That's what I'm telling you. This is what your children are going to get. Why? Because it's in the textbooks. And it's proven pseudo. Why? Because I've done it in academia. Watch this. One of them wrote that African Americans have come to believe that their history began when the first slave ships docked in the mid-17th century. But our results suggest that it actually started far earlier. Two of Christopher Columbus' shipmates were the first Africans to set foot in the New World. A study has found, says Haynes Skronder of the Center for Geogenetics at the University of Copenhagen, Denmark, who did the analysis. Watch this, y'all. We on great time. The new 2010 study now puts the first Africans in the New World, the Americas, in 1492. Y'all know the song Stevie Wonder said, in 1492, you fell upon our shores, 700 years, educated by the Moors. But then what happened in 1493? Oh, it's some more. It's extremely inaccurate. Another inaccuracy is that even now, the term race is still being used in the 21st century. It's on birth certificates, identification cards, traffic tickets. The designation is being used in spite of DNA studies that have explained that there is no such thing as several human races. The word race was documented and first used by Buffon, B-U-F-F-O-N. Fact check your brother. In his book in 1749, I'm giving you a quick history. Your children should be in this. If we was in a church house, they'd be giving dollars. I just like saying that. The first person to ever divide the so-called races on the basis of skin color was the German John F. Blumenbach. Remember Blumenbach? Remember Blumenbach? I broke this down when I did my oral dissertation that I can prove that the misnomer black man is the father of civilization, proved by the Bible alone, and we destroyed that Blumenbach stuff with that Caucasus Mountain stuff. We destroyed it from what? Scholarship, with all love and respect. That Blumenbach pseudo, 1752 to 1840 AD. He considered the Caucasian to be the original race. Blumenbach, an anthropologist, named the whites after the Caucasus Mountains because he thought the purest white people originated there. But au contraire, mon frère, through DNA studies, science has now verified that there is only one race and that the human race that originated in Africa. We are all one human family in this context. There is, however, one part of human family whose history was first ignored and is now being distorted more than the history of the other part of the human race. I'm speaking of the history of the African, the misnomer black man, and of the people of African descent in the diaspora. And similar damage has been done to the history of the Native Americans. You know, it just is. And so I want us to have a good eye. That's why I say, anybody ask me anything. Remember, Dr. Van Sertima wrote, they came before Columbus and said in 1975. 35 years later, Van Sertima's work has accumulated in the publication of books. The book was created to expand the seminal work that he started decades ago and illustrate the Africans not only came before Columbus, they came before the Indians. You can pull up Ivan Van Sertima in Egypt and all that. That's why I said all this stuff come before me. How can you hate what I'm saying? We already debunked that Euro and that Negro-centric propaganda. Our scholars already done this. You know? That's why even with my brothers that love Noble Drali, that's Moors, they got history twisted. They got history twisted. It's a peer-reviewed article would not support any data that's not authentic or evidence. That's why I said I deal with peer-reviewed scholarship, y'all. I hope we know what that means. You know, they came before Clovis. What is Clovis and what is prevailing theory about Clovis? Y'all got to know. I'll give y'all a little synopsis. This is history. For years, ancient American history has been anchored by the Clovis story. C-L-O-V-I-S. For all my historians, listen clearly. Clovis is an archaeological site in New Mexico that was first excavated in the 30s. The holy grail for the Clovis first theory supported is that Clovis was claimed to be the site that contained evidence of the first Americans arriving in 9,400 BC from Asia by walking across the Bering Strait. Until recently, the unscientific false claim was widely taught across the Americas for years. If Clovis was dated 9,400 BC and the passage was blocked 10,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago is the same as 8,000 BC. 9,400 minus 8,000 equals 1,400. Then Clovis would have existed 1,400 years before the Ice Age glaciers melted and passage to Clovis would be open. See, this house, easy, stuff can be debunked. You know?
Wow.
We deal with scholarship. Watch this. Watch this. In the first updated theory, instead of walking over the land through the middle of the Alaskan glacier, thanks for the donation, Noble. The first Americans left Asia by walking across the glacier in far eastern Asia, where the Pacific Ocean meets land by hugging the shore, far eastern Asia. They would continue east to Alaska and Canada, and then south along the shore to the modern Washington state until the glaciers ended. They would then walk inland away from the shore. This way, they could have theoretically avoided the big glaciers as they walked along the sandy beaches of the Pacific Ocean. From far eastern Asia to modern Washington state, on the modern United States map. You see, some of us have seen commercials on television today of these cruise ships sailing to Alaska during the spring. Watch this. They witness large chunks of ice falling from the top of the iceberg all the way down into the ocean, making a large splash. Watch this. There was no shore in the commercial. And if there was no shore to walk on, this theory will not work, y'all. I'm giving you history. See, we debunking the Eurocentric and the Negrocentric propaganda. We have to. Another problem with this theory is that there is no evidence of ancient boats or even pieces of ancient boats that could have been used to make this ancient Pacific coast journey. With that being said, there are some archaeologists who still hang on to this unfounded theory, although they have not yet found any preserved boats in early Pacific coastal American sites, y'all. I'm telling y'all, there's so much history that need to, like what we said, the miseducation of the Negro. It's so much. It's so much. As I show maps, I can show y'all maps of things. When I say, hey, our people, our educators is doing this to us. We can't blame nobody else. And I said, I'm right here. And this would need to be common for us. Look at these pictures. Y'all see them little small pygmies? This is what they saw in Americans. You see the European in there? I no disrespect. This is what they saw. This is what they saw in Americans. See, a lot of stuff they don't want to show you. That's on the border between Uganda and Congo, now Zaire, courtesy of David Mendoza. All this stuff is here. Listen to this, y'all. Listen to this history. It is agreed that the Vikings discovered America before Columbus. But when the Vikings first reached the Americas, they met a people who had already been in the Americas for many thousand years. They met a group of short Africans whom they Vikings called the Scarolings. You heard me, the Skraelings nobles. The Vikings themselves said that the Scarolings, you say what?
Can you respell that?
Absolutely, my Moorish brother. The S is spelled Skraelings. Scarolings. The Scarolings. Yep. The Vikings themselves said that the Scarolings look like African pygmies. And the evidence points to the Scarolings being in Canada and New England, not only as early as tens of thousands of years ago, but also as late as the same time period of the Lenape, who they preceded. See, the idea that the first Americans were Africans from the East, not Asians from the West, is a mind-boggling revelation. As covered earlier, when the first Vikings, also called Norsemen, entered Canada, they met short African people they named Scarolings. You see, no disrespect, the European, the Albion, the Anglo-Saxon, always trying to rename something. You know, always. That's what I'll be telling y'all. You can't find yourself in history. Why? Because the European and Albion, no disrespect, the Trinidad renamed you. I'm telling you. And it takes your brother like myself to show you this, to stand up. I've done this in academia. It can't be hateful. How can it be hateful in this history? The Scaroling pictures in existence today, but it is safe to say that they look similar to the diminutive Africans of today displayed in this figure I'm going to show y'all. In the photo, David Mendoza is seen with a group of Scarolings. David Mendoza, yep, the European, in the Winrazi Mountains on the border between Uganda and the Congo in 1967. Here you go, right here.
North America and Greenland as well. The Scarolings.
Yeah. So that's why I be telling Moorish people, I be the brother that, oh, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I said, man, Noble Drew Ali ain't the authority of history. Like, come on. Our prophet did his job. I'm in the flesh. We're going to add on as scholars and educators, wisdom. Their language belonged to a family known as the Kushan and included many click sounds. You see them after they're making them click sounds. Research the Khoisan, which seemed to be a very ancient feature of language. And they lived in Southern Africa, which Dr. Atkins calculate points to as the origin of language. See, the click language is the oldest language existing in the world today. See, in the 17th century, when the Dutch settlers landed in South Africa, they described the Bushmen and the Hottentots, the Hottentots, and the Bushmen as short and speaking with a click sound. So if that's the case, come on. I'm giving you history, y'all. The Fuegians, the Fuegians, the Fuegians of South America still share the same M174 and the D haploid group as the African Khoisan. According to Finch and Walker, the Khoisan and the short Bushmen, or the sand individuals from the Kalahari Desert. The original Fuegians also had dark skin and peppercorn hair, like some Southern Africans of today, as seen in that photo of the original Fuegians on the front cover of the book.
Not peppercorn hair.
Yeah, right here. This is in the libraries in London. I'm giving you a history course. So when the people be coming with that cap, they be like, no, man, no. We give it with scholarship. I'm showing you. You should have pride. I'm showing you history. We almost done. This is what is there. I love prophet, but we got to get in history. And I'm not going to let nobody disrespect history. It's here. Watch this, y'all. Remember, it's according to Winter Sticks. Mac Ritchie, I'm talking about scholars. Y'all know who David Mac Ritchie is, right? Everybody know who David Mac Ritchie is. That wrote The Ancient and Modern Britons. It's 2 volumes. Ancient and Modern Britons. He showed you over there. You are the Britons. This is what I'm saying. Finch.
Briton.
Yeah, Malik. They were related to the Anu, the Twa, the Scarolings, the Bushmen, the Hottentot, and the Fuegians. They all were the same short people from Mac Ritchie and Walker's work, and reportedly to have spoken the clicks, say Finch and Walker. These people were all related, but unfortunately different names were given to these short Africans who spoke with a clicking sound. See, these people had brilliant architectural skills. See, they built round towers, castles, churches, bridges, all this, according to myth. The Maya god, Itzamna, Itzamna, which is a dwarf, built the great pyramid of the magician, Ixmal, Uxmal, in a single night. That's what they say. But the Anu, the Twa, have been traced from the Nile Valley to Mali, where they are called the Tillim, Tellem, in Mali, across the narrow strait of Gibraltar.
Mansa Musa, the Mali Empire.
Yes, separating Africa from Europe to Portugal, where adjacent to what? Spain, to Germany and England, where they are called the Picts and the Lapps, to Scandinavia, where they are called Finns, after which Finland is appropriately named from their original occupants, y'all, to Greenland, to Canada, where they are called Scarolings, to North America, where they are called the Mound Builders, to the tip of South America, where they are called what? The Fijians. Yes. Come on, Malik. Moving west to Hawaii. As just mentioned, they were what? The Mihune, the Menehune, in the Philippine Islands back to 1540s. Navigator Roy Lapisi Villalobos and his Spanish shipmates dubbed them as Negritos, aka Little Blacks. In Indonesia, on the island of Flores, several diminutive skeletons were discovered in a cave and dubbed hobbits, as in Tolkien's movie, Lord of the Rings. Towards India, we also find them on islands in the middle of the Bay of Bengal. They are called the Andaman Islanders, after the island in which they dwell. They are literally found all over the world. See? Incorrect pronunciation used there to make a point. And these diminutive Africans have been given many other names. Somebody saying something?
Go ahead, Chief.
Okay, I thought you wanted to say something. Go ahead. We almost done. but it's still other pseudonyms. Pseudonyms they have been called in McRatchie's book, where they call dwarfs on page 64, leprechauns on page 107, elves and pixies on page 127. See, they always try to take your history and make it a fairy tale. You see? The name Pix or Pix, fairies on page 114.
Pygmies.
Brownies, yes, sir. Brownies on page 80 and 159. Goblins on page 144. Enchanters on page 169. Sorcerers and great magicians on page 57. Wizards and witches, musicians who have magical powers exceeding gypsies. But we know who the gypsies was because the gypsies was dark as well. Come on now.
Yeah.
Supernatural power. Yes. And the female dwarf had the gifts of prophecy. She stood on a short of elevated stage when delivering her prophecy. Is a very suggestion of a chromalic or dolmen. See, family, the physical appearance of the Britons, you know, Britons, or Scarolins suggest that they were pygmies who were originally black or almost black to white after mixing with the Caucasian Britons. See? Their appearance was a race of flat nose with flowing dreadlocks and a race of pygmies. Look at King Arthur and how his famous Queen Genevieve was a pig woman in Atlantis Rising magazine. Or look up the website historictruth.info. You'll see, depicting on the source, these small Africans in the British Isles are depicted from savages to people who were described as the dwarf races appear as possessed of a higher culture than the race or races who were physically their superiors, aka their Caucasian neighbors. I'm telling y'all, man. Oh, you want more? Watch this. History. When I did this in college, man, I had a standing ovation. Leakey and others tend to establish their fact. It was indeed a short race of African race, which preceded the taller one. The short race was the earlier form of the modern man, Homo sapiens, going back in time to over 100,000 years in Africa and possibly 40,000 years in Europe. And the Grimaldi man, who was also known as Oregasian. Both of these ancient first European groups were diminutive Africans, ancestors of the Anu, the Twa, who migrated to Europe from Africa. Churchward, you know who Churchward is, a British scholar.
Churchward.
That's right. See, he also wrote that the Anu were primeval inhabitants of the Nile. See, we're giving you scholarship. I show you maps. It's here. Rise up, my brother and sister. The Nile Valley to the Americas like pieces of the puzzle. The route from Africa through Western Europe to Scandinavia, sailing to Greenland, and finally to the Americas. Come on, y'all. Any questions? I don't want to stay too long, but we done, man. The history is there. The history is there. Any question?
Comes to America, known as the Mississippi.
Yep. That's the slave trade, was the Mississippi River.
Known as
They show you that in 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
If we paying attention.
Yep.
Because everything seemed like it had a different name based on the area that you were in.
Well, the Louisiana Purchase.
Yep. Come on, Malik, teach.
Mississippi
teach,
Mound Builders is along the Mississippi River.
It's long. Cahokia Mounds.
Yeah,
St. Louis
all on the
is
Mississippi.
named and known as Mound City. So this is what we were doing.
Bringing it back. This is our story, not his story.
It's all there. Don't forget that the Mayan, hey, listen, don't forget that the Mayan legend that said a dwarf built the pyramid of the magician Examel. They said a dwarf. What dwarf? The Pygmies, just across the Gulf of Mexico in Yucatan, on the same latitude of Mexico. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. The Maya during the pre-classic period built the pyramids over the top covering. Noble said what year it was the so-called purchase, what the Louisiana Purchase. Remember, it's in the book Empress Gaston El Bay. The Washita Diundi Moors. It's there for you. The Olmec pyramids, all this. So I want us to know, somebody said what year was the so-called purchase? The Louisiana Purchase.
Google it.
Yep. All you gotta do is Google it.
You can
We
Google
got the
it.
math, we
Yeah.
got the history. That's why I tell brothers, Victor Thomas, come to class. Come to class, man. Subscribe to our Temple and YouTube channel. You know, all you gotta do is Google it. It's there
You
for
can
you to
Google
Google.
that.
It's simple. Just Google what year was the Louisiana Purchase. You can find it.
And we have the maps for that too. We went over this like 2 years ago.
Yeah, we went over this so many times in history. You know, exactly.
It's so much. It's so much.
Yeah,
So much.
And we have the literature and all the books to go to back it up. And like I said, I've done it in academia, where we let people draw a line down our back and say, no, we're talking about the Americas. We can talk about here. Yes, whether brothers that say that they were Islamic, like Ibn Battuta, but you had brothers and sisters that weren't just Islamic because they were Moriscos and Moradines, but they understood the so-called Coptic Christianity per se, So
They understood
we have
the way.
Yeah.
They understood the way. That's what Christianity was called before they called it Christianity. It was called the way.
Yeah. Oh no, you fine, Noble. You fine, brother Victor. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine, brother Victor. But we do, like I said, when I talk about the dumb diverses and the papal bull, write all these things down. There's so much history that's going to tie into things. Did anybody get Lee? I think it was Leo Higgins. No, the Annales. Anybody find that author?
I was just finding Cornelius Tuca something is the only author that I saw, but that was the one,
I have to find it.
certain author, but hold up. Yeah, I just kept finding Tacitus, but that's that's not the one that we want.
Yeah. And so, but that's what we wanted to hear. We wanted to leave the floor open for brothers and sisters to join us, and open up the doors to anything. We are open book. And like, it's a piece of history that I want to share. I think I sent it to y'all earlier. It's called The Roman Empire of the Edomite. And these books be by different professors and things. And I want us to take an eye in it. When I say research the word IDUMAEAN, and what do you get?
I sent that in the text stream.
Yeah, you did. You sure did. You sure did. Idumea refers to people or things related to the ancient region of Idumea or Idumea, which is also known as Edom. These people were descendants of Esau, the brother of Jacob, and inhabitants the mountains area south to the Dead Sea. The term is also used to describe a person from this region, such as Aniphater, the Idumean, the father of Heroth the Greek. So that should open up. Ding, ding, ding. You should be like, wait a minute.
What you read. I just posted what you read.
Yeah. A person should be like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Yeah. And then I shared the book, the scholarship where you can trace it, the Roman Empire. The empire of the Edomite. But ain't no disrespect. I talk from scholarship. And that's what I want to share with people, how things you've been taught in reverse. Even when I get the Anglo-Saxon dictionary, the origin dictionary, and show you what white means, show you what a lot of phrases about. When I talk about the dumb diverses, you can have a clear eye.
Or white by law.
Yes. And so
not white by skin color.
Right, Malik. And those are the things that we have to break down. Next week,
not white by feeling.
Yep.
We can do white by facts.
Yep.
But not white by feeling. White by law and white by facts.
We probably talk about the Egyptian Book of the Dead by Robin Walker. But also, y'all, in academia, I just want to, as we close, if there's no more questions, we can keep the cipher going. But I'm gonna show videos. I'm gonna show videos of European professors debunking all of it. Like, I got a film, it's called Black Before Columbus, the African Discovery by Europeans. And I'm gonna show y'all other professors that debunk that Jesus myth of first century with love and respect from scholarship. It's called the Black Before Columbus came, the African Discovery of America.
Yeah, that was before Jesus. That's ancient Kemet. What was it, a Horus?
Yeah. Somebody want to ask a question? Montez?
Islam. Well, so a lot of the students that might be younger students that might be listening right now, let's say they're in high school, middle school, elementary school, whatever grade level they're in, whether it's public, private, whatever type of school institution, And you know, they're not, let's say they're not, they never learned what you just eloquently spoke on today's sheet in their school. You know, this student, man, what type of questions should they be posing their teachers, just as far as, hey, I learned this today at the Adapt class over on Burning Bush Tabernacle, YouTube and Facebook. We didn't learn this last year and we're not learning this year. Why not? You know, what should the students be asking their schools and their parents?
Well,
see, you just opened a Pandora box.
yeah, they can't.
Islam. Does
And
that make sense?
Yeah,
Because they're not learning that in school, when they
okay,
leave the house.
Now, what you just said is, me and Malik were just talking about this earlier about is, and how I'm giving you credit about what you teaching, about how you teaching your kids. It's public school, so it's on the teachers. When I say it need to be common to churches, so if the parents don't know this and if the kids don't know this, what question are they going to ask? You said all variables, so now we got to fill in the variables. If an adult here and you have kids and you ain't teaching your kids this, and they go to school and write about Black history, you the problem. If you here and you got children and you don't make your son or your child sit down with this because this is supposed to be in the mouth of babies and we take this and bury it under the ground and don't share it, you are the problem. You know, this is what I tell adults. I know men that be having boys, man. My kids need to learn something, and my brothers be like, well, Cheek right here. I do this in real life in Arizona. I'm getting ready to go back in Flint. I got a whole contract where I'm working with some other people in their churches. That's why I be telling people it's on us. This is popular to other people. They pay me. That's what I'll be telling people. And I give them a tax every receipt. So this history is known. I hate to say it. I'm going to say it like this with all love and respect. It's known to Europeans. It's known to average. Like, why? Because this is what they study. I'm telling you, that's where I'm going to teach at.
Study you.
Wow.
Yes. This is history.
You don't study you. You just accept what they told you about you.
And you are the ancient and modern Greeks.
I just broke down the Europe in the film. Y'all won't listen to the brother when he was talking about the European Renaissance was opening what? Their universities, Oxford, Cambridge, off our wisdom. This is what I'll be telling you. The first university was Salamanca, Spain. It's on us. I keep telling people I've been in the museum. I've studied this. It's on us. And none of this can be debunked. Why? Because I got the degrees. So the kids are not going to ask no question, Malik, one, because they Dantes one, because they can, like you said, they're not going to have the pride and the understanding and someone to back them from history. They can go with scholarship to have that confidence. You know what I mean? So it takes confidence to, when you know something, then to go out and do it. It takes confidence. You know?
Okay, now I got something to add to what you're saying, right? Mm-hmm. We have to understand what we did to our children back when school integration. Like, I'm just really saying, when we watch those kids be forced to go to them all white schools per se, right? And how they were treated. Why would anybody send their kids through that per se for education? Because they sure weren't sending their kids to our schools for their education to be mistreated. So think about that for a second. We sent our children, right, in the South at the time, to these schools where nobody looked like them. And what did you expect them to learn at that school?
Just nothing.
With that being said, we have assimilated to that way of education since then. And it's just, we just accepted it and move forward. Well, I'm not accepting it anymore.
I agree, Malik. Like, and that's the thing. We should be at this point where our focus is not on no other man. Our focus is not on that, because that's what they want us to do. They want us to focus.
You wonder why you mistreated. You keep asking them for permission. Stop it.
Yes. What we're talking about is everything is written. So when you go to the public schools, my answer to that is for my people. When you go to the public schools and you sign that contract, you're under contract. What? To go with this. So you can't teach that. Now you have to have a good teacher, like myself, that will maybe be able to teach after school studies. But most people have took that oath, to teach that program learning. In academia, you have to teach what is called a reading list. It's a thing called the reading list. That's why most college kids, when they go for African American studies, they're going to read some fake Willie Lynch, like you said, Dantes. In high school, you said that Willie Lynch was required reading, or to watch Roots, and I debunked that in academia. Like, why would
it was an advanced African American history.
See,
it was AP.
See, and here it is.
professor I heard teaching that was what's her name? Janet, whatever her name was.
The European lady.
Yeah. She the only one that I know. And my daughter took her course in college, and they made her watch it. And then they made so-called black and white students switch roles. And some of the so-called white students didn't like the way they was being treated. And they walked out and said in order for them to come back into class, they had to apologize to every dark melanated person in that classroom before they can come back in the course.
Yeah.
They only showing roots to the AP African American history.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
Classes. Not the regular Black history class. The African American history AP. That's where you watch Roots in high school.
Yes.
And a lot of these public schools.
And we showed y'all we showed the misnomer black man roots come from a European named Harold Calder in his book, The African. And you see how this put down. That's why when Dante said, when I say the reason why we don't know this, because this is not normal. What's normal to the misnomer black man is to argue over religion. I'm a Hebrew Israelite. I'm a Moor. I'm a black Mason. I'm an Egyptologist. I'm this. I'm gonna go back to African Negro. All those.
We could whoop all that. You know why? Because you don't see Mormons arguing with the Amish, or you don't see them arguing with Catholics.
No.
That's the main conversation.
It's a conversation. Yes.
Well, think about it. Think about that. That's attached, but that's attached to not knowing who you are. You're the nationality and your divine creed. That's why when I just name those other religious organizations that know who they are, there's no argument between them.
Because
there's only argument between us because we don't know who we are.
They know their history. The Book of Mormon, Joseph Smith he plagiarized from the view of the Hebrews. They all know. That's why that's why in all books they try to subjugate the color. But we just showed that.
And who did you get the book from? A person was named something Morion or something like that. The angel Morion gave him the scriptures. Joseph Smith. That's what he said. I can't.
Pseudo.
It started with an N like Morion or something like that. I can't remember the name. Yeah.
They definitely don't know where they're getting the sign from. Just like they try to Korean Gospels, where the European try to talk about at 3 o'clock in the morning he did this. No, a transcriber. You got that from ancient history. That's like the prophecy that they compiled. I know where it comes from. It comes from the Unto the I Grant and the Moorish Akashic records. It's just facts. It's facts. You know. And so I agree, y'all. You say what? No, we'll go ahead.
But for some, knowing, sometimes that dollar could shut you up, though, even if they know who they are. Islam, you might know who you are. That's the thing.
At the same time, remember what Sheik been saying, right?
I've been saying this for. I'm glad Dante understand that.
But that dollar,
that's what Sheik been saying. Can't be sold.
Faith-based initiative.
That dollar a mug, I'm telling you, that dollar a mug, it could be dangled in your face. And if your spirit ain't right, you can everything can be shut down and say, well, I'm just gonna do this for this check. If you don't have other things to
Black Panthers.
I'm telling you.
That's what happened to Black Panthers.
Yes.
Somebody took $1 to shut him down. Then he had to come back out later on talking about, they did this X, Y, and Z. I did this. Yeah. But people that look like you.
Yes. All the time. And that's what I tell her. I said, isn't it amazing that you got so many misnomer brothers on the internet arguing over Moorish history, this, we ain't this and this. I said, dude, you look so silly. Are you a historian? No, well, history is going to prove you wrong every time. The other man is going to prove you wrong every time. Every single time. From love and respect. Everything is going to tell. Just like I tell people when they say, well, the Moors killed the African. I said, okay, now we're going to deal with history. Do you know who Leopold is? No. Okay. You don't know who Leopold is? From Belgium that came to the Congo. So then I have to take you back to how the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. So then when you understand that, when you understand who he is, then I'll show you how Africa is not named after a European. I start showing you so much history. You'll be like, oh, and I'll show you Leopold used the fez as part of his army uniform, just like Hitler did. Hitler regiment not only wore the fez, they studied the Quran. They studied the Quran. So I don't know what people be talking about. Well, the Africans killed this. Well, I know people that wasn't more than all that. They own indentured slave, white and black. What we talk about?
The original Germans had dark skin anyway.
So
they were slaves.
Yes. So I think, once again, Noble Dantes, I have to be honest, brothers like myself and y'all, that's 5%ers. And I even met European Albion, that's 5%ers. What I mean 5%ers is 85% of the world is dumb and blind. 10% of the world know the truth but won't tell it. But the 5% of the world will tell the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and I know European professors that speak the truth. I sent y'all all the videos. So I look at them as 5%ers as well, ones that'll stand on truth. It's just a lot of what now. The flip side of this, y'all, this is when I want to say the trigonology of this. And y'all be like, yep, the European can stand in his realm of academia and speak like I do and make millions and millions of dollars. Why? Because that's what you're going to see filled in those lectures. You know, in our realm, when you look at our scholars, Dr. B and John Henry Clark, Ivan Van Sertima,
Nobody comes.
if you look at Tony Brown's journals, them brothers died poor and wrote all them books. You see the difference?
Yeah, but so hold on. We bringing it to light though over here. So they sometimes, you know, it takes. I was just talking to my brother Flood. You know, he's part of the Kurt Flood family, right? He's like, man, we always got to fight for something because his daughter going through something with change of schools because of something went on, right? And so I was like, but that's what you do. Somebody always has to stand up for it to benefit later on. Because like his uncle Kurt Flood, like he didn't get the benefit from free agency, but because he put that work in, everybody else gets the benefit. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, see,
that's just how it goes. You got to be willing to put the work in.
I agree, and I dedicated my life. Remember, Malik, we put it in the text stream. A lot of stuff we talk. I put it in the text stream, and Malik rewrote it. I'm saying to whoever unhappy that a man may be, the moment he knows his purpose of his life, a switch is turned on, and the light is on. If he has to serve after that purpose all his life, he does not mind, so long as he knows what the purpose is. 10 such people have much greater. 10 such people have much greater. 10 such people, you know?
Oh, so this is the one thing, right? If everybody's so-called, and I'm going to just use these modern terms, everybody want to be Christ-like, right? I ask somebody, well, how much money did Jesus have? Since you think it's all about them, how much money did Jesus have? I say he was supported. He was wealthy because of the people's lives he touched, right? He had wealth in that. So it's not about the riches. Because you could be rich and die lonely.
Yeah.
But you can have family that don't have a lot of money, but be wealthy.
Yeah. From what they do with their money and time. From how, yes. It's balanced. We talk about that all. That's why I'm glad, even though we done lecture, we having this conversation, we talk about this as we perfect it. We talk about this like we build our infrastructure. You know, we talk about finances here because we can. It's nothing afraid to talk about. We have to understand what we're doing. See, brothers and sisters, it's so much that we can talk about. That's why the best gift is persistence and determination. You know, that's the most important qualities that a student should possess in approaching this great work, other than normal intelligence and emotional stability. I see that the two other qualities which are essential for success, and they are best summed up in this following quotation. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than the successful men with talent. Geniuses will not. Unrewarded geniuses is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. That's power. That's what we talk about. That's what we talk about, y'all. And I want to give y'all another nugget. Have y'all ever heard of Walter Rodney?
No.
Any of y'all, see, I deal with great thinkers. Pull up Walter Rodney when you get a chance and pull up his letters of understanding. Like I said, I put his video in the text stream. You know, this is what I'll tell us in history. We have a lot of brothers and sisters, and I tell brothers like yourselves a lot of the stuff that I study. You know, is like to bring to y'all, to bring to our brothers and sisters. You know, for we can see things in history, for we can have pride, things that was done. And I'm surprised nobody never heard this lecture. Y'all know who Rodney? Nobody don't know who Rodney who Walter Rodney. I sent y'all this book. As we close, this is gonna be a good ending. Walter Rodney, the author of what book, y'all? Come on. We've been 2 hours. We're gonna end on fire. Walter Rodney is the author of what book? I just sent it to y'all yesterday or last night, early in the morning when I was studying.
Underdevelopment of Africa.
Ding, ding. I gotta send Maso a gift. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes. The grounding, this science is so prophetic. And he wrote a letter. It's important to understand that the following comments were made specifically in the context of Ghanese of that situation. I'll give a little bit of it. He said, you see, we have had too much of this foolishness of race. I'm not going to attempt to allocate the blame one way or another. I think more than one political party has been responsible for the crisis of race relations in this country. I think our leadership has failed us on the score. I think external intervention was important in bringing the races against each other from the 50s and particularly in the early 60s. But I'm concerned with the present. If we made that mistake once, we cannot afford to be misled on the score today. No ordinary Afro-Ghanese or American, no ordinary Indo-Ghanese or American, whatever you want to call it, can today afford to be misled by the myth of race. Time and time again, it has been our undoing. Does it have anything to do with race, that the cost of living far outstrips the increase of wages? No. Does it have anything to do with race, that there are goods that ain't no goods in certain areas? Did it have anything to do with race when the original lack of democracy, as amplified in the national elections, is reduced at a level of local government elections? Does it have anything to do, come on, that's right, Malik, with race, with the X workers or the shop workers or anybody that cannot elect their own union leadership? Does it have anything to do with race when day after day, whether one is Indian, Moorish, or African, whatever, without the appropriate party credentials, one either gets no employment, loses one employment, or is subject to a lack of promotion? This is what happens when you get this type of education. When I'm telling you, you have to be accepted by your own, or you have to go all the way in their house. That's why the law is set up for us. When I say we tax exempt from the government, that's why I tell us. He say, now listen here. Does he say
Can I add before you move on?
Yeah, I'm gonna start right there because I ain't want to give it all. I want to start right there.
He was talking about race, right? I hope I hope people catch it, right? And he was referring scientifically. Scientifically, how many races are on the planet?
Yeah.
Scientifically, how many? One.
Yeah.
The human race. So to understand that, you really got to break it. Like elementary school, you go to spelling bee, right?
Yeah.
If they'd have used the word race, it would have been about a competition. If they would have decided scientific definition, it'd have been the human race.
Yeah.
So we only got one. So what people arguing about? Crips and Bloods?
Yep. And somebody asked me on my YouTube, on my personal YouTube, his name Victor Thomas, says, does the KKK give a charter to exist? Yeah.
Yeah.
We do. Yeah.
The Quran.
They under the Quran. That's why I told y'all I had a troll. I was riding my bike the other day, and he was on his page talking about he KKK. But I tell people, I said, I'm glad they get on there, because when you get on my page, you're a willing obligor. I sent it to my homeboy Issa, the ISBN number. You're like, Sheik, do you want to share his old information on the internet? I said, no, I wouldn't do that. You know, I could, but that's the thing when I say people be upset with information on the internet, but you have to have strong skin on here, because people can say anything and jump on your page as trolls.
But that dude is a goof anyway. Because what KKK just come out and tell you I'm a KKK? He
had it on his handle. My boy is on his handle. It said KKK, and he jumped on my page talking a whole bunch of stupid stuff. You know, I don't. Yeah, you know, I don't play with it. So I just sent the handle. I said, dude, I'm like, stop the cap. Then when I have to really start showing people things, because I have a charter too, and I tell people I graduated from Clear University, which is in Howell, Michigan. I know a lot of the Grand Wizards of the Klan. That's why I be saying I'm a real official when I go out there. I don't know what people be talking about. That's why I'll be like, dude, people be playing a dangerous game on the internet. Dangerous.
Yeah.
I said, your handle was on there. And if you're really a KKK member, then I see what state you're in, then I just send it to that chapter. And they hit me right back. Oh, we apologize, shoot, good, baby, whatever. Like, we'll go right to that area. This is what I'm telling you when you were real. I don't play no bullying from no adult or no child, especially on this internet where you think you're incognito. We're here for education purposes only. You see?
Huh?
And I just want to put that out for brothers and sisters when they come on here playing. Mike Epps even said it. He was like, when he was talking to the young boy Kai Sonata, and he said how he had to stop responding to people on the internet. He had his guy Trace, one of the person that was on following, talking a whole bunch of crap from him. And he was a little kid in his mama basement, just talking stuff, you know, got him all upset for no reason, you know?
Wow.
So that's another thing too, when I talk about the internet, yo, I'll say, we don't come from no biased perspective. I teach everything. I show everything. I've shown the Quran. I've showed that the KKK ain't even authentic because they get their whole uniform from the Black Saints in Seville. I showed that, you know, and they still there. The whole uniform is a copy. Everything is a copy from scholarship.
Copy do.
Yes, and it's no disrespect to no one. It's no disrespect, you know. And so I guess that's it. We've been going for 2 hours, but like I say, y'all, a lot of this stuff is taught. When I talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that's taught at Oxford and Cambridge. All the stuff I talk about is studied. You don't see European Masons and European Greek fraternities acting stupid like we do. You don't see none of that stuff. I can go to the Scottish Rite House to one of my professors that I know out here that's a lower level Mason, and I show you what they do in their damn Masonic house. They study. On the table, they got all the books that I'll be talking about that I break down. That's why I had to create my own charter and my temple in school and academia, because I can't lower myself to fit in with a group of misnomer Black people that connotate under something dead. Why would I do that? So I had to have my own charter, just like the prophet, just like any other God man that know how to do things. I have to see structure, just like anybody else back in the day. How did they get their charter? Somebody had to do it. How did the Burning Bush Tabernacle Sign Temple? If somebody had to originate it, somebody had to originate the Moore Sign Temple of America. So why people looking at me in a sad way? I'm just doing what the Creator told me to do for my dispensation with my people. You see?
Oh, I see.
To be able to take it further, you know, to be able to bring things that most people would never ever get, who won't even be introduced to. Why? Because I've been through the fire and I can speak of it eloquently. I can speak of it eloquently because I can show all books from my European scholars, from Peter Albert Churchward, from our other books, Sacred Drifts, Peter Moon, from Spandu Mysteries, all the Europeans that wrote eloquently of the prophet. Why would the prophet Noble Ali be on Spandu Mysteries with all those army generals? You don't know why?
Because he spoke the truth.
Come on, why would Peter Lambert Wilson on the front of his book, Sacred Drift, have a prophet on the cover of his book? Come on now.
Because those people who search for true education and true history.
Yes.
Wisdom.
Yes. Why can I show on my page the European Mason, the Scottish Rite Mason, giving credit to Noble Drew Ali on his 135th birthday? And I can show the books with the European with the fez on that say Muslim. And in the book, on Noble Drew Ali.
Ain't that J. Edgar Hoover, ain't it?
Well, that's one, but the other book, what is it called? Maso? Is Maso on here? Y'all know the name of the book?
Which one?
Which one you talking about?
With the caricature with the fez on.
Oh.
Let's see.
What is it called? It's the history. It's the history of culture in America. I forgot the exact name.
What is it called?
I forgot it. It talks about a certain time period. The American Dream. It's something. The American Dream came from the Arabian Nights. All right.
It's called Arabian Nights.
It's something. I gotta find it.
It's called this right here.
Yeah, how the Arabian
Nights. That's it. Yeah. Okay.
American Dream, Islam.
And And so in the film, when you pull up, you can go on my YouTube page or pull it up. It's the European Scottish Rite Mason. He's giving credit to Noble Drew Ali on his 135th birthday, and he quote the Arabian Nights, and he say, "How do y'all don't know about Noble Drew Ali? Like how? Like when? How? Especially if you're a Mason or anything, how you don't know?"
That's a good question.
Huh?
I said that's a good
Talk
question.
about my Mason brothers.
I know. I said that's a good question.
That's all I ask for my brothers that's Masons. I like, how you don't know this? Like, are you really being serious? Because on my YouTube page, I shared where the Scottish Rite, the European Mason, Sharon Noble is giving celebrate Noble Drew Ali 135th solar return. I share it.
Yep.
All you gotta do is go in there. All you gotta do is go in there and watch it and see what the European Scottish Rite Mason is saying about Noble Drew Ali and about the science. From respect, with no biasness. Don't be biased. You know? And see what you get. Anybody got any questions?
No questions, just gratitude.
Gratitude.
It's there for everybody to see what they like. Unbiasedness. And if you don't want to look on my page, if you want to go on my page, because I share all information, I'm not no gatekeeping Negro. I'll remove all the mysteries, all the signs of symbols, the compass and square. I'll remove all the mystery signs and I'll rock them. You can pull up on right now on YouTube. It's called Remembering Noble Drew Ali on his 135th birthday. You can pull it up. Or you can go on my page and pull it up. It's right here. If you don't want to go on my page, you'd be like, oh, he promoting himself. No, I can give it to you. It's called Remembering Noble Drew Ali on his 135th birthday. And you can see my European colleague, the Scottish Rite Mason, giving credit to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali on his 135th birthday. And he's laughing at the misnumbered black man, like, stop playing the game. Like, how I know all this and you don't? Like, and I showed y'all the Nation of Islam have all this. So I don't know what nobody trying to play no game with me and upset with me for. I don't know why. And he dropped that wisdom down. So thank y'all for taking time out y'all day. Listen to me for 2 hours. But you got to understand something as we close. We've been miseducated all our lives. Some of us went to get that higher education and still got pseudo Eurocentric and Negrocentric propaganda. Still don't have a full library with history from all scholars from first century and others nationalities to prove the history of what we're talking about. And now we're here at the Burning Bush Tabernacle to resurrect the teachings and ask all our brothers and sisters to come and learn. You know, right. Come and learn. You know, and anything that you want to ask, you can ask it here. Anything that you want to research, we have it.
Yes, we do.
So I guess if that's it, y'all, like I said, thank y'all for your time and thank those that donated. Somebody, Victor Thomas on here, Victor Thomas, you can get with us. Our email is going across the screen. It said, what is your YouTube channel name again? Our YouTube channel, Victor Thomas, is Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. Our information go across the bottom. Like I said, we have private teachings. We do a lot. We own 10 acres. We're trying to build our first brick and mortar, you know, to put our library in it and stop giving our money away to Uncle Sam and build with it, you know? And so, yes, anybody can join us privately. I want brothers and sisters to ask us questions. I have a full library. When I say a full library, you see all my brothers on here? No, you don't see them, but we have a full library. Anything you need. So Victor Thomas, please get with us. And anybody else that have questions, I always ask brothers and sisters, any questions, you know? So with that being said, if no Muftis don't have nothing you want to add in, none of y'all don't have nothing?
No, not at the moment.
I think that one good thing that we could.
I couldn't hear you, Noble.
Islam, you hear me, Sheik?
Yes, I can hear you, Noble.
Hold up, Islam. Just gratitude and honor.
Gratitude and honor for y'all as well, man. I sent y'all some gifts to y'all email last night. You know, I'll be up studying late. But once again, thank y'all. Thank everybody for their time. As we continue to move, we ask all our brothers and sisters again to join us. Next week, I'm going to show y'all this lecture of this European destroying all this stuff. I'm going to show y'all what was in history. It's a first century writer named Thales, where we disperse all this stuff. You'd be like, damn. I'm going to show you how Julius Africanus misquoted Thales stuff. You know? So once again, what
we
you
just
said,
showed you today, somebody who looked like you giving you scholarship besides us.
Yeah.
Right,
And look, y'all, Victor Thomas said, look, I'm on my personal YouTube page. Victor Thomas said, peace, bro. He said, I used to follow you years ago. You hear me?
So what happened?
No disrespect. I'm just saying years ago. And that's why I said, I ain't going nowhere. Anything I can show people in history. I don't have no fake degrees. I never take nobody to no burning house, but I really do this work. I really travel. We do have our own charter. And we operate off donations and gifts. And instead of us giving our money, Uncle Sam, we can build our infrastructure. But Victor Thomas, you're more than welcome to join us and be with us and grow. So thank my brothers. Thank y'all again. And thank everybody for your donations. Like I said, the book that I'm offering today was the book that my brothers quoted that I said by the letter I was reading. It's called How Europe Undeveloped Africa. You know, by Walter,
y'all hear that?
by Walter Rodney. That's why I said anybody that gave a little small donation, I don't care if it's $5 or $10, I'm gonna give you that book, but I'm gonna give you more. I'm gonna give you more because I'm gonna give you the Roman Empire, the Empire of Adamite. I'm gonna give you all those two books. Might give you more. Why? Because I can. Because I should. You know, this is what you do when you connect it to your brother. I'm not a gatekeeper. A lot of stuff that I have, you go on Amazon, you'll be like, damn, that book costs thousands of dollars. His brother giving it to us for pennies. He's converting them to ebooks, and he print and bind them for the same price Office Max and Staples. But we try to educate our brothers. We're in a new era. You're not going to travel with a whole bunch of books. You want your books on your tablet so you can read them. And then at home, you print and bind your books for your home library. This is what we teach. I've converted these expensive books for you can have, for we can study together. You know, so I hope I'm reaching someone today. I know we've been long and we've been 2 hours, but I have something for my brothers and sisters. And I really, really hope brothers share this with their families, with their children, because it matters.
Oh, it does.
Indeed.
And so thank y'all, man, for y'all time. Noble, y'all can take us out with our Moorish American prayer. And Noble Alonzo, can you give us our benediction? Sorry for going over my time, y'all. I apologies, man.
You ain't got no time. I'm good.
Gratitude. I'll get that benediction ready.
All right. I'll say the prayer. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our guide, and our salvation by night and by day. This holy prophet, Drew Ali, Amin Ashe, Shalom Aleichem, Ash'ar, Islamism, Hotep, peace, 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 peace.
Islam.
Peace,
peace. Our closing benediction reads as follows. May the benediction of Allah be upon thee and thine always, as thou should strive to be a credit to Allah. Make haste to bestow thine acts of love upon thine brethren, and do the best to shun thine evil ones. Remember to take suckle of the breast of knowledge, wisdom, fortitude, charity, love, and all standing, that you might nourish the souls of men. Let the truth be the shield in the manifest battle of falsehood. Know that Moors need not to pick the lock to the gates of paradise by means of petty or criminal theft. For behold, the key to salvation already rests within thine own hands. And yes, even though a portion of our nature is weakness, instability, and inconsistency, there is still the greater part of our nature that is divine. May Allah protect thee, guide thee, preserve thee, lengthen thy age, and give thee everlasting peace. Rahman, Rakim, Ya Hak, Yamun, Islam, Amen. Peace, 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 light,
peace,
illumination,
peace,
Islam.
Peace, 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 peace.
I'm a spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seeds sowing, harvest reaping, man of meager means. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dreams. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't. Really, it ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun, it's an everyday thing. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night, I